Imagine waking up in a world where everything is cheaper. You would have, maybe to work 10, 15 hours maximum a week. Technology would be exponentially evolving, developing, innovating from zero to one. Of course, one to many, two. But a world, where there's prosperity, joy, and pleasure, where, people have equal opportunities. Not talking about equality. There will never be, like, if you think through it, there will never be equality. So I had a talk, amazing, fascinating talk after I read his book of Jeff Booth. It's an amazing book. You should read it. I hope it's going to be translated into German and other languages so that the German folks in Austria, Germany, wherever, can read it too. For those who were not really in command of the English language. So go give it a listen. It's on my homepage, keyvandavani.com/podcast, or on Anchor .fm. Sorry about that. You can't see it. Now you can see it. Anchor.fm and /Keyvan Davani. It's on the show notes, the links. And get his book on. It's really transformational, evolutionary, really dot connecting book. And you should read it. You should definitely read it, and I hope it's going to be translated as soon as possible into other languages. And the subtitle is, the title is The Price of Tomorrow, and the subtitle is Why Deflation is the Key to an Abundant Future by Jeff Booth. His knowledge is comprehension. He's not just an author, he's just not philosophizing, about, deflation and technology and Bitcoin and economy. By the way, welcome to the show. My name is Keyvan Davani. I'm the TotalConnector. I'm the host of the Total Bitcoin podcast show. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you soon in a couple of seconds. All right, welcome back to my show, The Total Connector. Now, we've grown up and we've become, so indoctrinated and so much brainwashed with the notion of deflation being a bad thing. People still are mixing it totally up, even, the definitions and what have you. The thing is, Jeff Booth, check out first of all his book. Listen to his to all of his interviews, especially mine, on anchor.fm/Keyvan Davani or keyvandavani.com/podcast. My website is TheTotalConnector.com. So the thing is that technological innovation, technological development, exponential technological 0 to 1 innovations are not avoidable anymore. It's inevitable. So it's as we are already seeing it and living it. For example, the information technologies, computer technologies, mobile phones. Okay, so this is like a very special sector that has evolved at a rapid pace, at a rapid rate of speed. And the thing is that I asked him in my interview, what about all the other sectors, all the other aspects of technologies, would it be information technology, computer technology, and since Jeff Booth, he's a really insider and entrepreneur and investor into startups, and he's on the board of a lot of companies. He's been featured in a lot of economical, financial newspapers and what have you, been ranked as one of the best entrepreneurs. So he knows exactly what he's talking about. He comes from the field of especially AI, e-commerce, information technology, machine learning, self-driving cars. So everything that is connected, to let's say computer technologies, information technologies, what have you. But when you think about what about all the other technological dimensions, such as energy, transportation, health, regeneration, genetics. So there's a lot of technologies that are either to a certain degree publicly visible and accessible and demonstrated. Well, if you look, for example, on YouTube, the videos of these demonstrations by Boston Dynamics, they make all these robot technologies. But this is just like a glimpse into the future. Now, of course, I always ask myself, who controls these technologies? And before we even talk about who controls, before we talk about ourselves, we should be in control of these technologies or benefiting from these technologies. We should first ask, what are the structures? What is the architecture? What are the structures that we're living in? And that starts always with the monetary economical structures and architectures, which is definitely, not rational. It's irrational. It is not logical. It is not ethical. It is not fair. And it's, and to call it a Ponzi scheme would be, my humble opinion, just a Ponzi. To call it a Ponzi scheme is really understatement. So, and as let me just read a couple of sentences from the description of his book. He says here, "We live in an extraordinary time. Technological advances are happening at a rate faster than our ability to understand them. And in a world that moves faster than we can imagine, we cannot afford to stand still. These advances bring efficiency and abundance, and they're profoundly deflationary. Our economic systems were built for a pre-technology era when labor and capital were inextricably linked. An era that counted on growth and inflation, an era where we made money from inefficiency. That era is over, but we keep on pretending that those economic systems still work. The only thing driving growth in the world today is easy credit, which is being created at a pace that is hard to comprehend, and with it, debt that we will never be able to pay back. As we try to artificially drive an economic system built for the past, we are creating more than just economic trouble. On our current path, our world will become profoundly more polarized and unsafe. We need to build a new framework for our local and global economies, and soon we would need to accept deflation, meaning cheaper prices, right? Deflation, and embrace the abundance it can bring. Otherwise, the same technology that has the power to bring abundance to us and our world will instead destroy it. In this extraordinary contrarian book, Jeff Booth, a leading mind and CEO in e-commerce and technology for 20 years, details the technological and economic realities shaping our present and our future, and the choices we face as we go forward. A potentially alarming but deeply hopeful situation. So just to give you, I know you can read it for yourself, but I just thought, just as an introduction to what I'm going to say is that, and we know he talked about this in detail in our talk, in my interview, and many other interviews, he gave. He said, the debt, the global debt that has been created, and just as the official number, we're not talking about unfunded liabilities, derivatives, and everything. So approximately, we got like $250 trillion of debt worldwide. And he always says, in order to create like a 48 trillion dollars sort of GDP or economy, we had, it had to be a debt of 180 or 200 trillion to be created. So, but why is that, right? So again, we're going back to the monetary structure, the monetary roots, and that is, fiat, right? Fiat money and Keynesianism, right? So when you have super centralized structures, such as the central banks, the central banks, and and in collusion with the governments, embedded into the nation states, whatever you call it, and everything, is bordered and closed and compartmentalized and, divided. And this is also what we talk about, this divide and rule principle that is we're experiencing in different colors, in different shades, right? But, we're being played against, the whole system is being played against one another. How do you think wars are being created, How do you think wars and all these conflicts and bloodshed and suffering and pain is created? It's because of the fiat system. It's because, all these technologies we might have, we could see a glimpse into. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So just imagine all the technologies that are either, in the closets, whether, seized or, in the name of national security, or within the military industrial complex or military industrial corporate complex. If these technologies come out and start being developed, and mass produced, again, a lot of these works and jobs which we have right now, most of them high-paying jobs, yes, they would become obsolete. I mean, how much panic, how much fear had been dispersed when the talk was about the internet and the computer. They're gonna make people unemployed and a lot of suffering and pain and poverty and blah blah. Nothing of that happened. Actually, it has somehow expanded our consciousness. It has connected us more. It has made a lot of things more, let's say, even, censorship resistance, although it's a topic right now that is really more and more, trending, and we're experiencing, the censorship again, or at least the attempt to censor information, knowledge, or the distribution of knowledge. So we could have literally a world where we this is Jeff Booth, by the way, a really humble and extremely knowledgeable, experienced and wise man and human being who understands how to connect the dots, and he went also into detail about, talk about Bitcoin, that he has a huge belief and trust in Bitcoin, because this could ultimately, shift and transform our monetary system, and with that, our economy, our technological innovations, our the potential of human evolution and prosperity and abundance, right? So we could have everything. We could have all the technologies out there. We could. I see a world where we don't even need even to have fixed, like, permanent residences, like homes, like the movies that you see. Yes, this is the future. I know it's a reality, but because we've been so dumbed down as humanity, starting in school, in kindergarten, in university, the whole system is so rigged, so manipulated, and the whole knowledge that has been sort of suppressed, and the comprehension we just didn't have, right? So it's not the fault of our teachers, parents, grandparents. It's not about blaming anybody, but it's just the structure, the incentivization game is so negative, right? That kleptocracy, crony capitalism. This is not capitalism, right? And this is also what Jeff Booth talks about in his book and in my interview. Is we don't have a free market. We do not have a free market capitalism. Free market, really true free market capitalism, would have created a totally different civilization and society and interaction and technological innovations by order of magnitude. There's so many bright, brilliant, ingenious minds out there. Would it be entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, inventors, scientists, technologists, engineers. Once we have the monetary root layering of Bitcoin, the hardest, scarcest money, hard capped, right? A hard capped money with absolute scarcity, immutable, decentralized, borderless, peer-to-peer, without any intermediaries, right? Do not trust, verify, right? Principle, where people can for the first time start saving. They can start saving and investing into the long term. We can for the first time, be able to buy more. The purchasing power would go through the roofs with just one single Satoshis, the subunit of a Bitcoin, right? One Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis, right? So with that one single Satoshis, right, you could buy more and more, because the purchasing power, because technological innovation would expand radically, would evolve by order of magnitude, exponentially. I'm not talking about like only what a mobile phone that you have, or you have all these free apps. I'm not talking about the computers, the lap. No, I'm talking about like totally different technologies. Transportation. What do you want to call it? Flying cars, flying vehicles, drones, if you want to, all right? Would it be like health generation technology, regeneration technology, genetical, biological technologies, right? We could have like super energy efficient. We would stop burning fuels for the first time. This is what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about at least a Tesla electrical car. Forget about that. I mean, I'm talking about really highly advanced technologies that are in the closet, that are either suppressed or patented or closed off or seized in the name of national security, or hidden behind the closets of the military industrial corporate complex. All right. But this is where we need to understand, to comprehend, where do we start? Where do we start? And that starts with the money, with the money, and that is Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is the free market. That is why gold has failed. Because why do you think gold has as Jeff Booth also correctly says, has a whatever 8, 9, 10, 11 trillion market cap? Because it was tied to fiat currency, right? Why did it fail? Because of the centralization, because of confiscation, right? 1933 Executive Order 6102 by Roosevelt in America, right, in the United States. How do you assay the validity every time? Then how would you even exchange or transact trade with gold? How would you assay, validate the authenticity, the purity of the gold every time, right? I mean, how can you send it electronically? How are you going to edit? How are you going to audit it, right? So there's like we don't even know. We're just being given numbers, right? That there's a stock of 200,000 tons of gold, and there's a flow like each year. But how do you know? I know exactly within that second. I could tell you exactly how many, at what block height we are right now. How many bitcoins are being mined every whatever. Like how many? Like every 10 minutes there's a block mined. It's total transparency. It's total auditability. This is what we need. This is truly human, monetary, economical, financial, social, scientific, technological, structural, architectural, and spiritual evolution. It's a world. It's a planetary future. We can't even fathom. We can't even imagine. But we could have had that kind of future starting already at least 100 years ago. All right. But because of the central banks, because of the control obsessive, sadistic central banks, I mean, let's just call it criminal. It's just beyond criminal, right? So the whole taxation system, the whole inflation, I mean, the whole inflation that we are being bombarded, but we don't even notice it because people are saying, oh, 2% inflation. It's not 2%. The total effective inflation is actually much, much higher. If you look at all the other categories of products and services, right, and goods and services and what have you. I mean, look at America. I mean, all these people that come out of college sitting on hundreds of thousands of debt, right? Who's going to pay that, right? And people are really, I mean, there's so many people under the line of poverty or in poverty. There's so many people on welfare. There's so many people that from middle class right now that are being like totally exploited by the system, right? They have been exploited and stolen from. They don't even have any kind of savings. This is what the world looks like right now. This is why we need to take back our self-sovereignty, our self-responsibility, our freedom. And that starts with our own mind, with our own brain, with our own actions, human action. That's why so many people, Bitcoiners, investors now, entrepreneurs, macroeconomists, technologists, entrepreneurs, I mean, so many people, educators, podcasters are telling you, buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin. Just start with a small amount and educate yourself, of course. But first, buy it because you can't lose anything. All right, just so much money that you can put on the side. Get yourself a hardware wallet, any kind of hardware wallet, a Trezor I would recommend, or Bitbox, Bitcoin only, by the way. Okay, get yourself a hardware wallet. Get yourself, or at least for the beginning, a mobile wallet from Samurai or Blockstream, Green Wallet. I mean, there's so many really good wallets out there for small amounts. If you have like bigger amounts, then that you can regularly buy, accumulate, like they call it auto DCA, auto dollar cost averaging, or whenever the price goes down on average within a week, a month, just buy a little bit more. Would it be a couple of thousand Satoshis, right? Or, fraction of a Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it, right? You don't need a whole Bitcoin. Just accumulate. Just buy on a regular basis. There's a world out there that's awaiting a future that we can't even imagine. This is what Bitcoin means. It means freedom. It means evolution. It means prosperity. It means abundance. It means really science fiction turned into reality. It means all these fantasy movies that you see, this could be reality, but we are so close-minded. We think, some people think we are alone on this planet, or in this universe, or in this galaxy, or in this solar system, but a lot of people just can't even imagine that a lot of these technologies that that is being shown to us, sort of, it's a sort of a fiction, and it's just a fantasy thing, it's just a movie, and a lot of things that are just being demonstrated to us, on let's say, by all these corporations and companies. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But once we are in control, or nobody is actually, everybody, the whole humanity is then, each individual is then their own central bank, if you want to call it. All right, nobody controls it. Nobody can manipulate the money, the value of the money, the value. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a totally transformational, evolutionary future, right? But we need to educate ourselves, educate others, our friends, our beloved ones, our family, but most people need time. So once we reach that critical adoption rate, whether it be 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever that is, whatever that number is, all right, whether it's 100 million or 500 million or 1 billion of total humanity's population, all right, we are right now at what, 7.6, let's just call it 8 billion people. But if we reach 500 million, or at least a few hundred million people adopting Bitcoin, just buying it, just holding it for now. And right now, at an exponential rate of speed, all these applications, the payment information, the payment technologies, infrastructure, is literally being built right now, and is being used, right? If you look at BTC Pay server, Samurai server with its coin mix, with the mobile coin mixing, the Lightning wallets, strike, zap, where people don't even need to think about are they transacting, with Bitcoin or Satoshis or fiat. No, this is how people are going to be introduced into the Bitcoin space. They don't even need to think about it, because the merchant, the shop owner, the business owner can decide whether the transaction is going to be automatically, simultaneously, instantaneously converted into fiat or Bitcoin with Strike. This is my dream. This is my priority. My strategy is to form a special task force in all countries, beginning here in Austria, in Vienna, in Graz, in wherever, in Boputswana, it doesn't matter. But shop owners will have, for the first time, the merchants will have the first time, have the ability, right, the option, the alternative option to offer a different payments alternative to their customers, to their clients, right? So they can, of course, still, people can still pay with cash, if cash is by then not, the way I see it, paper cash, fiat cash, that is going to become more and more worthless because of inflation, hyperinflation, because of these trillions and trillions and trillions printed out of thin air with a physically paper or digitally centralized, So we talk about like trillions and trillions and trillions, right? So it's bottomless, right? And they even admit it. It's in our faces now. They don't even deny it anymore. They say, we have infinite money. That's what they're saying, right? The central bankers, the chairman of the Federal Reserve or whatever, right? So it's time to go into action, into human action. It's time to really open our minds, get rid of our biases and emotions and negative emotions, and really go into depth, educate ourselves, right? Listen to all these interviews, to the podcast, read some books. There's tons of articles and books out there. Just take yourself a little bit of time. I know life can be very stressful, especially for people, who have children, who have work, who have, other, who are being, and then, the people are tired. They don't have the time, this is the attitude that a lot, I think, to be honest with you, a lot of Bitcoiners and product developers and cryptographers and coders and what have you, all these Bitcoiners, they need to change their attitude. No, people... You can't tell people, just throw something at them and just like, hey, you know what, just learn and educate yourself. No, people don't have the time, or the lecture. People don't have the luxury of time to sit down for a week or a few days and set up a node and trial and error and this doesn't work. People need to be guided. They need support. They need effective, really pedagogical and effective help, support, guidance, help, right? Advisory. This is why it's so important, like never before, to create a special task force where this special task force go to the merchants, go to the businesses, and help them set up their BTCP server, their wallets, the hardware wallets connected, like super self-sovereign, everything connected to the self-sovereign node, because then they're totally self-sovereign, because then they transact, they validate, they authenticate everything by themselves. They don't rely on any third party server, what have you. This is what it means. So if there are like not only thousands, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of people, then we are totally free. But first, we got to sow the seeds, and the seeds are already sown. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto did. However imperfect it was from the beginning, but now it has become a really huge cuddling monster. This Bitcoin, all right. It's too late. The cat is off the bag. Pandora's box has been opened, and now we're working on it. We're educating. We're sharing. We are literally peacefully fighting. All right, but in peace, but peaceful. There's no time. There's no, it's totally, wasting time and energy going in the streets, demonstrating, burning down banks, in Lebanon or whatever, it doesn't change anything. It just doesn't change anything. The only thing is to create new systems, new infrastructures, new architectures. I don't know who said it. I think it was Buckminster Fuller Buckminster, or the old Greek philosopher. Who was that? Socrates or something. It's instead of fighting the old sort of, let us create a new world, a new foundation, a new soil. And that's why the soil, the foundation that we build our houses on, need to be clean, fertile, healthy, not toxic. All right. So the soil that we are right now on it's beyond our imagination, beyond criminal. All right. If people just had the time and the access and it wouldn't be so, let's say, let's just call it, people wouldn't be called whatever, conspiracy theories or this and that and crucified, in the public, or discredited. People would, if people just understood and comprehended and really found the truth of reality, how this world really works and how really evil it is, the root of the systems, the root of all these central banks, nation states, governments, and centralized military, industrial, corporate organizations and structures, they couldn't even believe it. All right, but it doesn't matter. All right, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, we got to focus on creating, not only for ourselves, but for all children. I don't have children, but for all children, a new world, a new future. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about totally different civilization and lives that we can live, prosperity and abundance. All right. I mean, we talk about, all these, like, environmental problems we have, ecological disasters. We can all solve this with technology. All right. For example, we wouldn't need like all these so-called fossil fuels, even though they're not fossil. I mean, what does it mean at all? But it doesn't matter. Oil, gas, burning fuels. All these combustion engines. We would get rid of them. In whatever degree of innovation we're talking about. But we would stop burning fuels for the first time. Would it going to be hydrogen technologies, or really super advanced subnuclear, nuclear plasma, whatever we call it, but it would be a world that most people can't even imagine. We would finally go into space, and we would already have been there probably. That's what I think. If this monetary, economical, financial structures wouldn't have been created in the first place. So just think about it. We have already a deflationary world in special sectors of technologies. Would it be the mobile phone or the laptop, computer, information technologies, AI, machine learning, Google, algorithm. But the point is, we can make it work for us individuals, humanity. We can make it, really make it work and productive, right? For all of us, right? So we wouldn't, we could fly anywhere. We could transport ourselves anywhere we want, Would it be like super fast underground magnetical trains, or I don't know, taxi drones, or self-driving cars that would reduce the number of casualties and accidents by order of magnitude. All right, we would have more time. People would have more time. They would work less, as slaves, that, in jobs that most people even hate. I know a lot of people that, they work in jobs. They look unhealthy. They look unhappy. They're totally depressed. and frustrated. So for the first time, we would like leave all these jobs, these production processes to robots, to artificial intelligence, and we would be like doing creative stuff. We would research. We would the children, all the children would start like totally opening up their horizons, their creativity, their intelligence. They wouldn't be like bombarded with this compartmentalized, super like it's an educational system that is just created to destroy the creativity, intelligence, and the capabilities of humanity, especially of the children. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about a totally evolutionary civilization. All right. So let's start with the root of all the symptoms, and that is the money. All right. Just let us make it obsolete. Everything else, just let us together, individually and collectively, let's just really connect with one another. This is why the total connector, because I'm trying. It's just so much so much inspiration, so many ideas that there are out there, so much ingenious ideas, so much creativity, so much scientific, technological, creative ideas out there, and real technologies out there. They're just waiting to be developed, to come out of its closets. So anyway, Jeff Booth is an awesome entrepreneur. Is really he's a mastermind. He's got so much experience. He knows how to connect the dots, and he invites all of us. He actually invites all of us. Say, he's so humble. He says, he doesn't maybe know the absolute answers to everything, but he invites each and every one of us to come and join him and talk to him and suggest to him, propose to him ideas, solutions, infrastructures. We got to bring it, connect them all together. Entrepreneurs, investors, and then people would also be paid fairly, would be compensated fairly, right? And we would all benefit from it, from this new, paradigm shift, from this transformational world we would live in, all right? And it's right in plain sight, right? It's in plain sight. It's right in front of our eyes, but we can't see it, right? Most people are so busy and occupied, and distracted with mainstream bullshit and, propaganda and lies and manipulation and all this bullshit that we're being bombarded with. So let's just really wake up and do something. Let's go to human action. Start accumulating. If you have any questions, get back to me. There's so many, awesome people out there, educators, podcasters, people who want to help. They're doing it for the ethos. They could earn much, much more money, but they're not doing it. They're not going into corporate. They're saying, hey, I want to work for open source technologies, crowdsources technologies, where we all can contribute to it with our ideas, with our questions, with our, checks and balances, and it's unimaginable. It's just unimaginable. But we got to start somewhere, all right? And it starts with the root of all the symptoms, all the suffering, the pain, the inequality, the wealth destruction, the economical destruction, the middle class being obliterated. I mean, it's really crazy what's going on right now with negative interest rates on depositing accounts. I mean, come on. Is this real? Is this really? I mean, this is not real, right? This is a totally artificially created matrix. All right. I'm finished with my rant, but it's time really we wake up. Please let us wake up. I mean, if we're not masochistic, if we don't enjoy like putting pain upon ourselves, then the only logical, rational, and ethical action is to go into action, right? Is to go into positive action and not, stay in our passive, in our passive attitude, right? So let's really share this, like it, retweet it. I know it's a lot of rant, but every time I talk about this, I just cannot imagine how much destruction, irrationality. I mean, the solution is right there, right? But we can make this transition so smooth, right? By contributing our ideas, our action, and really convert our comprehension, our more and more worthless money, fiat money, into Bitcoin. Just hodl it, just hold it. And then it will come a medium of exchange, a unit account, a global reserve currency and settlement layer. It'll all become that, but we can accelerate, right? We can accelerate this process by order of magnitude, exponentially, right? The joy and pleasure and abundance we will be living in, and our children and children, it's just beyond our imagination. All right. My name is Keyvan Davani. I'm the Total Connector, host of the Total Bitcoin podcast show. Please retweet it, like it, whatever you do. Support me in any shape or form. And if you know any kind of insider, whistleblower, or scientist, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, expert, please get in touch with me. My email address is hello@TheTotalConnector.com. Get the book of Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow, Why Deflation is the Key to an Abundant Future, hopefully translated into other languages. My podcast, leave a positive review, like it, retweet it, subscribe please on my YouTube channel, on my podcast platforms. It would help me a lot. I'm looking for a sponsor, so I can really do this, do more, more smooth and professional, really interviews, with highest audio and video qualities. And my podcast you can find also on my website, TheTotalConnector.com, or just KeyvanDavani.com/podcast, where you can also listen to all these podcasts, interviews I've done. And you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, and what have you. So you can find me anywhere and everywhere. And thank you so much for listening, for support, and make sure you tune in again next time I live stream. Have a good day. Have a great weekend. Bye.